My own personal quest for the truth began back in Blacktown City, back in 1988. It was here in Blacktown where one sighting would change my view on reality and my life forevermore. It was a late Sunday afternoon and I was heading home from a friend's place. I'd made it to the top of a hill on a street adjacent to my own when I looked up and noticed a red ball of light not 20 feet above my head. The red light was probably about the size of a basketball. It seemed to follow my movements almost intelligently. When I would stop, it would stop, and when I would start again, it would start again. This continued for about 30 to 40 seconds. I remember my mood changing from calm and curious to confused and scared within seconds. So I grabbed my skateboard and ran the rest of the way home. This is a sighting that gave me my fascination about the subject of UFOs, and it's what launched me into a lifetime of learning and trying to find out as much as I could about the phenomenon. Then 3 years later came, and I was 12 years old, and I was visiting my father for weekend visitations. It was a hot evening, and my stepbrothers and I were camping out in the backyard and, looking up at the sky and talking and laughing and carrying on as you do as kids. Within a few minutes, I noticed a red light that seemed to appear straight above us, and I pointed it out to my brothers. The light then started flying around the sky at very high speeds, making sharp, controlled 90-degree left-hand turns. Within a couple more minutes, another two lights showed up, one blue and one green-yellow light. Then for the next few minutes, the two lights seemed to chase the red light around the sky. The lights performed all sorts of maneuvers, but they never seemed to be able to catch up to the red light. All three lights then disappeared in the same direction and were gone in a flash.
Was when he was very young, at home, over the backyard, and he called us into it. We didn't quite believe him initially, but once we got out of the house and able to see what he pointed out to us, he definitely sighted something very unusual, and that was been one of many sightings that he's had for his whole life.
Over the years, I had a very small handful of sightings. Only 3 of which I was able to capture on film. Funnily enough, the first capture that I caught on a mobile phone camera was of, again, another red orb which seemed to hover above Lane Cove Road late one night. And it was just incredible. It just blinked out and it was gone. The UFOs always seem to come throughout my life through times of sadness, emotional turmoil, when I felt lost. On my birthdays. This is one of the aspects of the UFO phenomenon that has always fascinated me. Back in 2012, I moved to a small country town in Western Sydney called Dunedoo. My intentions were to lay low and recover after an operation. In native Aboriginal tongue, Dunedoo means black swan. It is a population of just over 1,200 people and is part of the state's largest solar system drive. Dunedoo is located a short drive away from Coonabarabran, which is known as the state's astronomy capital. I remember it was my second night in town, and I'd walked into the backyard to catch some fresh night air, and I looked across the neighbour's house and I witnessed what I could describe as a gigantic white light, bright white light, and that moved very silently across the rooftop, and it was so low it actually illuminated the tiles underneath. After this sighting, I decided to go out and purchase my first semi-decent camera.
Of the time that Damien was in Dunedoo with us, we spent a lot of time in the backyard. We documented over a period of time the number of sightings per night. There used to be quite a few, sometimes a dozen or more of a night time. Different lights, different times of the night, and that was just. And we recorded them all actually in a calendar, a book thing, and we had dozens and dozens over the period of time, sightings that were unexplained.
People around town had also been seeing the lights for a little while as well, and soon enough I started capturing them myself on my own little camera. There'd be strange balls of light that would fly through the sky at all times of day, night, stop and change direction, fly off in another direction really fast. There'd be other balls of light that would appear out of nowhere, different coloured lights, red ones, orange ones, blue ones, green ones, purple one at one stage, blue, just the amazing colours, and all different size shapes of objects as well. We'd have oblong ones, long cigar looking ones. You have these strange little things that would look like saucers, except not metallic. They'd be made up of light. Other ones that light would pulsate through them. It was quite incredible. Green balls of light that would multiply, orange balls of light that would multiply and then disappear, and just incredible stuff.
Strange red flash coming from inside the clouds. I've never seen red lightning before. That's
one phenomena that I witnessed that really blew my mind was what seemed like an object in a cloud giving off red electricity in the center of a cloud, and I'd never seen anything like it. Never seen red lightning before. There was no lightning, actually there was no thunder, just this object which would light up the cloud, and I filmed it for quite a while. It was quite incredible.
Inside a cloud. Something strange is going on over there. Wow, did you see that? What's going on up here? There we go, in the background, look at that. Phenomenal. Wow.
The entire sighting lasted around 10 to 12 minutes, and on a few occasions there actually seemed to be two objects in the cloud, and on one occasion there seemed to be three smaller ovoid shaped objects which seemed to be giving off the light themselves, which was very unusual.
Okay, this is the daytime perspective, the morning after filming those red flashes and that red object above the cloud. This is showing you the general.
I never witnessed this phenomena again during my stay in Dunedoo.
Saw numerous lights up in the skies over Dunedoo, over the town where I live in, and they were doing numerous directions, going in one direction then changing, go another direction. There were numerous lights. Totally unexplained.
First time I ever picked up an infrared night vision monocular that was somebody else's. I pointed up to the sky and turned around, and lucky enough, I was lucky to capture an object which flew out of a cloud in the distance and flew off at high speeds, something you couldn't see with the naked eye. Other objects I would record in Dunedoo would be the strange black objects which seem to change shape. They weren't that large, maybe 5-6 feet, although they'd hover in the sky and then they would fly across and then do abrupt direction changes and then fly off even faster, and just the speed of these things was incredible. A good deal of the sightings we had in Dunedoo were orange spheres of light which would fly around the sky, sometimes straight, sometimes erratically, sometimes quite low. But they were one of the most predominant lights we saw, apart from the white spheres of light, which would fly about erratically, sometimes in pairs, sometimes in groups. The video camera I had at the time was still quite primitive. However, the night vision camera I had could pick up these lights a lot clearer, especially at night time. I'd contacted a UFO group in Sydney called UFO Research New South Wales, and they sent a team of investigators up, and straight away the lead investigator witnessed along with my father and myself, witnessed a large orange disc type craft fly low over the house during the daytime, under clouds, very, very low, and it was just incredible. Some of the lights we'd witness seemed to be moving in a certain type of searching pattern, as though they would be looking for something. They'd start, they'd stop, they'd maneuver around a certain area, they'd come in close, sort of stop, almost know that you were there. And that's happened a lot of times when they seem to know that you have a camera out. And sometimes they won't let you film them, which is quite incredible in itself. A few of us have found that they can drain memory cards, batteries in an instant, and multiple batteries and multiple memory cards will not work. After the UFO is gone, the cards seem to work again, the batteries work again. It's very strange indeed. Soon the press got wind of my story, and a couple of journalists from the Sun Herald came onto my property and witnessed two low balls of light flying directly behind each other, playing a game of tag over the backyard.
Well, I'm the president of the UFO and Paranormal Research Society Australia here in Campbelltown, and we've been researching the subject since the year 2000.
I had previously told Lorraine about the flashes that I was seeing in the sky, and funnily enough, that was one of the first things that she saw.
First thing we noticed was these flashes, I'll call them. There were flashes of light in the sky that definitely weren't aircraft, and they definitely weren't lightning or any weather phenomena, and they were moving around in the sky. They would flash over here, and then they would flash over here. We didn't know if it was the same object that was moving and flashing, or whether it was different objects flashing in the sky. But it definitely wasn't an aircraft flash. They were flashing here, they were flashing there and everywhere. That was one anomaly. There was a formation, triangular formation of three lights. I don't know if it was a solid object with three lights or whether it was three lights traveling in formation. And they crossed the sky. Damien filmed them, and he got the telegraph wires in the actual film with the object or objects, And when we analysed the footage to make sure actually that they weren't in front of the wires, close objects that could have been birds or insects, but no, they were definitely behind the wires. They were in the distance in the sky.
One day I'd received a call from Lorraine Cilia, the president of UFO PRSA. Lorraine had asked me to come down to Kiama, New South Wales, for a couple of talks. After the first presentation, I asked Lorraine if she could take me down to the beach. At the beach, we saw something quite amazing.
As we were looking over the ocean, there were, I think there were a couple of tankers on the horizon, and through the lens of his camera, he could see an object that was flying across the tankers and over the horizon, and it gradually was moving closer and closer towards us. Then out of nowhere, I remember another object came into sight. So there was two objects. They were a light white in colour. So I remember Damien and I spoke about it. What is this? It couldn't be seagulls or anything, could it? No. What could it be? And as we were watching them hovering over the ocean, one of them just dived straight down into the ocean and the other one just took off. And I do believe that Damien has the footage. So that was really unusual. And to see that with my own eyes was quite amazing.
After 10 months in Dunedoo, I decided to move on to a place called Taree, New South Wales. It's a beautiful farmland area, lots of mountains, and lots of UFO sightings.
Then Damien moved to Taree, and the phenomena moved with him. He was beginning to see things and photograph and video things in Taree.
What the hell? Two triangles. Come have a look at this. Two triangles pointing up, looking at each next to each other.
No way.
Have you ever seen one of them?
No.
Zoom in just a little bit more.
I gotta zoom out, get a better perspective of the thing. What is that?
Where's the third one? Can you zoom in a bit more? Zoom in on. What are they doing?
Oh, just keep a hold of the back.
Looking more round now. Yeah, they're both looking more round.
Wait for the third light to flash and see. Not triangles. The third light off behind. Oh yeah, it just changed.
One of the very first sightings I had when up in Taree was, and I talk about this one a lot because it's one of my favourite sightings, and part of it was caught on camera.
Whoa.
But we were there, and I'd laid my head down on the couch and looked out the window, and at this particular time I wasn't thinking about UFOs or anything weird. It was just a normal night. And as soon as I looked out the window, I saw these orange balls of light, and they all appeared one after the other, like 1, 2, 3, and then they all kind of moved to the left, and then they all petered out. And I thought, oh, maybe when you see something you can't explain, for me anyway, you go through your mind for a logical explanation, and I thought they could have been flares. That was the closest thing that I could think of. And so anyway, Damien went and grabbed a camera, and we ran to the windowsill, set it up, and I'm thinking, when Damien went to get the camera, I thought that's when I realised that this happens to him quite a bit, because I didn't think about grabbing a camera, and I didn't think about grabbing a camera for a long time, because you're trying to work out what it is that you're seeing. But for Damien, obviously, he'd had so many sightings that he knew just to go grab a camera. So while we had the camera set up, one of these orange balls of light appeared, again, off in the distance, the same way the others had, except this one was further away. And then it kind of petered out the same way the earlier lights had. And it was spectacular. It was a really great sighting among many.
When I moved to Taree, I invested in a new DSLR camera, and one of my first captures was a group of red spherical objects moving across the sky at rather high speed.
The excitement is palpable. Oh, palpable. Oh, it's made. Oh. Whoa. Oh my God, mate. Look.
What do you got now?
Another one just appeared over town. Look. Oh, whoa. Oh my God. You see it?
Yeah, I just saw it go out.
You saw it go out?
After a night of UFO sightings, we witnessed this large ball appear over Taree, and unfortunately the video doesn't do it justice. It was quite big.
We had a friend over that day and we were sitting in the lounge room, and suddenly our friend thought that Damien might be capturing something. So we went into the other room and Damien was standing by the window taking photographs. So we looked out and we saw a light, I guess a orange golden light, and it was travelling up and below the mountain line, and it was travelling toward us in our direction. And Damien luckily got some high-speed sequence shots over 200.
At the time, like many other sightings, I didn't think, it didn't cross my mind to pick up a camera. Because at the time you're still wondering what you're looking at, you're still trying to work out, your mind's still trying to work out a logical explanation, which is what it's meant to do.
And we were pretty much just standing there gobsmacked, not knowing at all what we were looking at.
That's all that's really going through your mind at the time. You're trying to work it out. And eventually you realise, after a lot of sightings, you realise, oh, it's this weird phenomenon that nobody knows anything about. We look back on it with a bit of regret, because if one of us had have filmed it, it would have been one of the most spectacular captures ever.
The green light phenomenon was very similar to what I was witnessing in Dunedoo.
No, he's just hovering.
One particular day we had seen a light outside our window, and we went inside to grab a camera. Basically came back out and a helicopter had started buzzing around our place, and so we started filming the helicopter, and sure enough he flew past this light, just underneath this light.
Soon enough we began to record white spheres of light moving high up amongst the clouds.
The white spheres occasionally give off flashes, which seem to affect the atmosphere like a sonic boom, except no sound is heard whatsoever.
Soon a friend introduced me to a place called Tipperary in New South Wales. The rural area had a rich history of sightings going back many years.
We arrived, we set up, and planes were going over just on dark, and I saw what I thought initially was a plane, but it had no wings, it had no tail, it had no portholes, and had no sound. So I wrecked the soundtrack because Damien was filming it, because I was swearing so much trying to understand what I was looking at, because it was the same height as the planes, but it was just a wingless plane. So, and I think that happened several times that early evening, where I destroyed the soundtrack by acting like a complete bogan by swearing and carrying on, because I couldn't get my brain around what I was looking at because of these tubes ostensibly at the same height as the planes, but I'd never seen anything like it before.
Tipperary had always given me that eerie sensation that I was being watched. You'd set your equipment up, you'd just feel that there was something around watching you.
And then later on we saw what looked like a red beach ball across the valley appear on top of a cherry red beach ball appear on top of the pine trees. And I pointed at Damien and said, "What the hell's that?" And he said, "I don't know." And it lasted for about 4 seconds, then switched off.
100 megawatts.
This thing's making a hell of a noise.
Not milliwatts, but megawatts.
One particular night, three of us had camped out and having a bit of a sky watch, and we'd set up EMF meter cameras in the valley behind us, just in case there was any action taking place. And sure enough, a light flew into the ground over my shoulder. Probably I could have touched it with my hand. And as I was reaching down to the ground to grab a camera, the light flew directly into the ground right next to my hand and melted into the ground without making a sound whatsoever. It was just quite amazing, and I jumped, must have been 10 feet into the air, and it was incredible. And Mike Williams was there also with me, and he witnessed it take place. He was only a few steps away from me when it happened. One of the most amazing aspects of this sighting was the fact that we caught a object or a unidentified aerial phenomena on camera actually appear out of nowhere horizontally in the valley just behind us. And that was an absolutely incredible sighting for the fact we caught it appearing out of nowhere, possibly another dimension or wherever it came from. It just appeared out of nowhere. It took shape and then moved out of the side of the camera. The UAP also seems to exhibit a row of holes across the top of the object.
I was fiddling around on his right, and he was bent over doing something, and I saw a piece of light about this long, about that thick, go over his, past his left elbow and melt into the ground near his left foot, and he jumped back and yelled, "What the hell was that?"
Over the last few years, we've had a few sightings travelling up the Central Coast, especially near Gosford.
We were travelling along the Pacific Highway and we saw a disc-shaped light off in the distance, and near it was a helicopter, and this disc-shaped light was just in the one spot. It didn't seem to be moving. Just 10 minutes after that sighting, we were travelling along Pacific Highway still, and we saw a luminous light come over the top of the tree line, over the top of the car, and Damien was hanging out the passenger side taking photos, and I was had my hands on the steering wheel, leaning forward, looking at this thing go over the top. And Damien got some great photos that show it seemed to be spinning around and leaving a residual sort of mist or something. He'd pressed record and thought he was filming, but then when we checked later, we realised that it didn't actually record. So that's happened a couple of times, malfunction with equipment. But we managed to get the photographs, which turned out pretty well.
Back in 2014, we decided to leave Taree and move into a place called Baulkham Hills in Western Sydney. At first, we saw a lot of white spherical objects in the sky. One of the earliest captures in Baulkham Hills was of an egg-shaped object which was releasing smaller white spheres into the sky, and I was lucky to capture that in a few high-quality photographs.
Other phenomena here included strange light phenomena which we'd witnessed around the trees, also floating in the air above us, strange shaped lights which were completely silent.
One object we caught on camera seemed to move across the sky at cloud height whilst releasing and also sucking in smaller balls of light into itself, which is quite fascinating. We've seen this phenomena at least 3 times now. A very similar phenomenon was witnessed in Hessdalen Valley in Norway, where smaller white spheres would be, for the want of a better word, sucked into a larger object. One phenomenon which we would witness in the sky quite a bit is what I call the flashes. Mostly we see them at night time, but occasionally we see them during the daytime. And I've been lucky enough to capture a couple of videos of these daytime flashing objects in the sky, practically invisible except for a flash every now and then. And these things are just absolutely amazing. They seem to follow other objects in the sky as if they're checking them out, which is quite fascinating. Into this cloud.
Got the camera on it?
Yep, I'm filming it right now.
One of the other sightings that I've had that was very spectacular was I was lying in my hammock and out the back having a snooze, and I woke up and looked up in the sky, and at that moment a light came over the top of the edge of the back veranda roof, and it was a luminous light. I yelled out to Damien, he grabbed a camera. We both had cameras, we were trying to catch this thing. It was sort of intermittently flashing. The photos that Damien got, which are much closer, you can see these pastel colours, you can see it changing shape. Again, it was another one of those sightings where when you happen to be looking right at that time, it just appears. That happens a lot with the sightings, and we can't explain why. We don't know why.
Zoom in on it.
I caught him on this as well, so it's good.
Anyway, we got the cameras and we were filming. I caught a little part of it. I didn't realise that I had it in the screen at the time. Just disappeared after a while. It was quite a long sighting, but we were lucky to catch that one on camera. It was really good.
Gibbet. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to run in and grab my other camera. Wow, hold on. Alright, I'll pause it so it saves it.
Unlike most ufologists, I'm interested in a lot of phenomena. So what I find really interesting, some of the actual phenomena from ghosts and poltergeists will actually occur in the UFO cases, which the UFO people will ignore, of course. And then some of the UFO phenomena will leak into the ghost field too, with this, cross-pollinate with different things, and the ghost hunters and busters ignore that too. So unfortunately, whatever is behind the actual phenomena is a lot more deep and weirder and stranger than just ET is here and abducting farmers over and over again. There's a hell of a high strangeness attached to a lot of the subject, and instead of boring people with trying to make up ridiculous excuses of what I think it means, I've got no idea, because that's the gist of it. Unlike other fields, if you study rocks or become a carpenter or whatever, the more information you know, the more skilled you know, the stronger conclusions you become. You're more knowledgeable. Within this field, if you're being brutally honest, the more you learn, the less you know. But most people aren't honest. So people go, they'll say, "What do you think this is?" And I go, "I have no idea." And they think it's really odd that I say that. and a surprise. And I go, it's not surprising, you're just being brutally honest. And the other thing is too, neither myself nor Damien, for instance, too, we don't have to explain what the phenomena is. We have to explain what the phenomena isn't. And a lot of times, if we're not dealing with something that's prosaic, like a flare or a balloon or whatever, then there's no onus on us to be forced to say we think that's ET, we think that's Martians, we think that's Earthlights. There's no onus on all. We don't have to. That's for other people to do. The onus from us is primarily to try and record the phenomena honestly and separate it from the noise factor. That's all it is. And I don't think we'll ever go beyond that anyway. From my perspective, Damien's captured more material of great interest than Bigelow and all these hundreds of millions of dollars in scientists. So far I've seen a couple of anecdotes and nothing. So they can keep bragging and claiming they've cracked the code and they've got all this stuff, but unless you release it, doesn't mean anything.
Damien is photographing and videoing a rare phenomena.
I've been a witness to many of the sightings that we've seen and that Damien's caught on camera. I've seen how he'll get a feeling and he'll go out and capture something, or we'll be driving a lot of the times on the way to talks or back from talks, and he'll capture something. He's put his hand out one time and went click and brought it back in, and we've looked on the screen and just gone, you know, what's going on here? It's very strange. You know, I'm just a witness. I'm just like I've always been interested in this subject, but I never thought for a moment that I'd be involved in it to this degree that I am. It has its ups and downs. The best part about it is just seeing the phenomenon with your own eyes. That's the best part about it. Everything else that comes with it is not so nice, not so much fun. But we want to show people what's happening, even though we can't explain what it is. We don't have any answers for it. But we just want to show what's happening and let people make up their own minds.
With Damien, because I consider him like a modern day Ted Sirios or Stella Lansing, those sort of people, for whatever reason, phenomena happens around him. Now, we don't know why. Now, he has the ability to capture on multiple instruments like video cameras and stills, and multiple witnesses can see it and also film it. So that sort of destroys the whole idea of him being delusional or mad, because it had to be a group delusion as well when they're all filming and doing that sort of thing. I hope but doubt that it'll be investigated by someone scientific one day, but I don't see that happening, unfortunately, because the real phenomena no one's interested in. They're interested in stories, fabrications, hoaxes and garbage.
I believe that Damien is a very credible witness because I have seen it with my own eyes with Damien.
But I've always believed in Damien, and what he sees is factual, and I'll always be supportive.